Have you ever heard the sound of a promise breaking? It's not a loud crack like thunder or a sharp snap like a branch underfoot. It's a deafening silence. It's a kind of silence that fills the space where a helping hand was meant to be, the kind of silence that echoes in a sky empty of Allied planes. It is the sound of hope withering on the vine. And it was the sound that defined my nation's autumn in 1939. Our story, like so many stories of great trial, begins in a time of fragile peace. The fields of my homeland were vast and golden under the late summer sun. Life moved to the rhythm of the harvest, a rhythm we believed to be eternal. We were a proud people, nestled precariously between two giants. In the west, a shadow was growing. A man named Arthur Falkenhayn and his fanatical party had risen to power. His voice a venomous whisper that spoke of destiny, of purity, and of a need for living space. His eyes, we knew, were turned eastward, toward our fertile plains. To our east lay the other giant, a colossal and enigmatic union of republics, watchful and unpredictable. For years we had walked a tightrope, guided by the steady hand of our great leader, Marshal Stanis Novak. He understood the treacherous geography of our existence. He skillfully deflected Falkenhayn's offers of a shared march against the Eastern power, knowing that an alliance with a wolf still leaves you in the company of a wolf. We maintained our balance, our sovereignty, our hope, but time, as it does, claimed our marshal. After his passing, the political winds began to shift. The tightrope swayed. Our new leaders, perhaps believing they could tame the beast to the west, leaned ever so slightly in his direction, while their hostility towards the east remained a cold, hard constant. It was a fatal miscalculation. Falkenhayn, sensing weakness, shed his thin veneer of diplomacy. The whispers became demands. He spoke of correcting the injustices of old treaties, of reclaiming a corridor of our land that connected his territories, the Amber Corridor, our artery to the sea. He demanded control. It was an impossible price for our sovereignty. Faced with the growing certainty of Falkenhayn's ambition, we turned our gaze further west, to the great democracies of Britain and France. We pleaded our case, not as beggars, but as a sovereign nation seeking solidarity against a common threat. And for a fleeting, beautiful moment, it seemed our faith was rewarded. In the spring of 1939, a declaration came from across the sea. Britain and France guaranteed our independence. They drew a line in the sand of Europe, and our border, they declared, was that line. A wave of relief washed over my people. We were not alone. The promise was made. The great powers of the world stood with us. Falkenhayn raged. He tore up his non-aggression pact with us. He nullified his naval agreements with Britain. He saw their guarantee not as a deterrent, but as a challenge. And in the shadows, he sought a partner for his crime. He found one in the very place we had always feared. In the dying days of August, the world was stunned by an unholy union. Falkenhayn's regime and the Eastern giants signed a pact of non-aggression. It was a cynical, pragmatic marriage of convenience. But hidden within its clauses, like a dagger in a cloak, was a secret protocol. In it, they carved up our country and the lands of our neighbors like a feast. The Eastern power pledged its silence when the Western wolf attacked, and in return, they were promised their share of the spoils. The trap was set. We were surrounded, our fate sealed by a secret handshake in a distant capital. On the first day of September, as the morning mist still clung to the fields, the world changed forever. The sound was not of thunder, but of vengeance. A new kind of warfare, a lightning war, was unleashed upon us. Stuka dive bombers, with their terrifying sirens, screamed down from the sky. Panzer divisions, columns of steel and fire, shattered our borders and poured into the heartland. Their movements were swift, coordinated, and utterly overwhelming. We fought back with the heart of a lion, but the body of a bygone era. Our brave cavalry charged against tanks, their lances and sabers, a testament to a courage that technology had rendered obsolete. Our defensive plans were based on the wars of the past, unprepared for the speed and ferocity of the future. And as we fought and as we bled, we listened. We listened for the roar of British bombers over Falkenhayn cities. We listened for the rumble of French artillery on the Western Front. We listened for the sound of the promise being kept, but all we heard was the silence. Britain and France declared war. Yes, words were spoken, papers were signed, but no great offensive was launched. No relief column marched to our aid. Their armies sat behind their fortified lines in what would later be cynically called the phony war. For them, it was a time of waiting. For us, it was an eternity of abandonment. We were utterly, tragically alone. Then, on the 17th of September, the final crushing blow fell. The Eastern Giant, citing a need to protect its ethnic brethren and reclaim lost lands, stormed across our eastern border. The promise of the pact was fulfilled. The Polish soldier, already fighting a desperate battle against a technologically superior foe, was now caught in a vice. Pushed from the west, crushed from the east. There was no escape, no retreat. So, there was only the choice of how to fall. Our capital, the grand Vistula city, held out a beacon of defiance in a sea of despair. For weeks, its citizens endured relentless bombardment, fighting for every street, for every building, for the very idea of their nation. But courage alone cannot stop shells, and spirit alone cannot defeat two empires. On the 27th of September, the city fell. By the 6th of October, after more than a month of brutal, solitary fighting, the last pockets of resistance were extinguished. My country was wiped from the map, partitioned between the two aggressors who had conspired against it. Our defeat was born of their modern military might, but it was sealed by our faith in a promise that was never truly meant to be kept. But here, in the ashes of that defeat, is where the true story begins. For a nation is more than its borders, more than its government, more than its army. A nation is an idea. It is a memory. It is a spirit that lives in the hearts of its people. And that spirit, though battered and broken, was not extinguished. In the crushing darkness of occupation, a new fire was kindled. It was the fire of resistance, the ember of hope that refused to die. The fall of my country was not an end. It was a crucible. It burned away our naive faith in the guarantees of others and forged in us a new strength, an iron resilience rooted not in alliances but in ourselves. It taught the world and us a terrible and vital lesson, that true strength cannot be outsourced. True sovereignty is not a gift bestowed by others. It is a flame that must be kept alive within. Our land was conquered, but our will was not. From that unconquerable will, a new story would eventually be written, a story of endurance, of resistance, and of a nation that, against all odds, would rise again. The silence of a broken promise is a devastating sound, but it is not the final word. The final word belongs to the spirit that endures it. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing for more moments from history that continue to shape our world today.